In today's video, you're going to learn the best equipment to use for real estate videography. Over the past years, I built my business to 7 figures and I've worked with some of the top names in the industry. And I use this exact equipment. So if you're watching this, you're wondering, will this work for me? This has helped us scale to 7 figures and work with the best names. So let's go ahead and jump into the video. So starting off with the camera, the best camera that you can use for real estate videography is the Sony a7S III. Now there's a few other options. You can get the FX3, you can get the ZV-E1, you can get the a7 IV, but this is hands down the best camera. The reason that I prefer this camera over every other camera is number one, is it has 2 dual native ISOs. So you're like, Claudio, what the heck does that word mean? All it means is when you're shooting at this ISO, there will be virtually no grain. And that's super helpful when shooting real estate. When shooting during the daytime, I like to shoot at 640. And when shooting during the evening, I shoot at 12,800 ISO. And when I'm inside, even during the daytime, oftentimes I'm gonna be at 12,800 ISO. This is helpful because when you're in a house and there's rooms that are dark, or it's evening, you're getting day to night shots, you wanna make sure that that looks crisp. And I can tell you guys that not all cameras will achieve that look. The Sony a7S III is the best one for that. And you're probably saying, well, if I'm a camera nerd, I know that the Sony EV1 and the FX3, they can do the same thing. It's the same sensor, same story. It's not true. This one has a viewfinder. This viewfinder right here, bang, 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 I can see into that. This is so helpful because when you're shooting real estate, oftentimes on those wide angle shots, if if you have your f-stop really high, if there's just a speck of dust, a tiny speck of dust, you're going to notice it on your sensor, and it's very hard to see in the back of the screen. In the back of the screen, you're like, okay, yeah, that looks good. There's a glare. Okay, I can see it. It looks good. You get all these perfect daytime shots. You go back inside, you go to look at it, and you realize that there was a speck of dust the whole time. So I prefer to have that. And you're like, well, what about the ZV-E1? Once again, we're going back to having the viewfinder. The viewfinder is super important. So there's no better camera than this one. It shoots 4K 60 with no crop. You're like, Claudio, what about the Sony a7 IV? That's a great camera. Once again, at 4K 60, it's going to crop. So this is 4K 60, no crop. It is more expensive, however, it's worth every penny. I would not compromise on this one at all. This one to me is a non-negotiable if you want to be the best in the world. It's time to talk lenses. So we're gonna start off with the wide angle lenses. So here's the first thing. We gotta get the elephant out of the room, right? Because it's in the room right now, but we gotta get it out. The 16-35, rest in peace. Like, you just can't use it for real estate videography. When I say you can't, I really mean it, you can't use it. This is a horrible lens for real estate videography. Years ago, it was great. Nowadays, it sucks. You just gotta put it over there. Forget about that one. Here's what you want to use. You're going to want to use either a 12mm or a 10mm. Now, these are both great lenses. They are both made by Laowa. I use a manual focus for both, and you're probably thinking, Claudio, I don't know how to do manual focus. I'm nervous. Don't worry about it. Relax. Easy, easy. Because the truth is it is very easy. So this right here, it has a little ring that says infinity right there, and on the 10mm it has a ring that says infinity. As long as you're on infinity, everything's going to be in focus. So you have 2 manual lenses. The 12 is great, the 10 is great. I use them both. Here's a side-by-side comparison. Tell me, which one do you like the best? I'm a night owl, it's a different mode. Hey, sorry to interrupt the video, but if you're watching this and you have any questions at all about your gear, your settings, or anything related to real estate videography and you want to ask me, I will personally respond to you. Text me, my phone number is right here. If you text me, I will literally respond to you within 24 hours. And if you have any questions, I'm available. And number 2, if you haven't subscribed, what are you doing? Come on, I'll wait. Okay, so now it's time to talk about the detail lenses. You have to have detail lenses to make great real estate videos. Here are what the shots look like for detail lenses. Obviously, it looks incredible. The reason that detail lenses are important and you can't go without them is because when you're shooting the wide shots, you need something to break apart the video, or else it's just really crazy. You need to have flow, and the detail shots will bring you the flow. Now, you're probably wondering, well, what lens do I start with? Well, let me start off with what lens you don't want to get. This lens is, once again, it's just fairly decent. It's the 24-70. Remember the 16-35? We'll just put that to the side. It's just not that sharp. I mean, let's just be real. It's really not that sharp. If you're looking for tack sharp, you're gonna wanna use Sony lenses, and there's 2 lenses. There's one that you need, and there's one that you get because we love gear. And then you tell your wife like, oh yeah, it wasn't that expensive. I'm just kidding. My wife actually supports every purchase I make, but I know that some fellows out there have to hide their packages, but you already know your wife is hiding her Amazon package as well. So you need this lens. It's a 50mm 1.2. Now I get it. It is very expensive and some of you guys are gonna have to hide this package, but this one is so important. Why do I like the 50mm 1.2? It's very versatile. You can use it for detail shots, you can use it for agent shots, and it's just tack sharp. Whereas this, not so sharp. This, tack sharp. Now this lens is important, you gotta have it. I would not want to go to a shoot without it. I just go home. Because the 50mm 1.2 is so sharp. Typically I shoot it between 1.2 and 2.6, right? I don't like to go to 2.8 because then it feels like it's 24-70. I'm usually at 1.2, sometimes I'll be around 2.0, but this is just an incredible lens and you're gonna wanna use an ND filter. You're like, Claudio, what ND filter do you have? This one is a Tiffin. This one is, I was at a camera store in Arizona and I needed a ND filter and I ended up getting one of these. And so if it's 200 bucks, it's gonna be high quality. I'm the kind of person, I like to invest in quality because my videos cost a lot of money. And if you want your videos to one day cost a lot of money, you better be willing to invest in yourself. So the 50mm 1.2 is incredible. I've had this from the very beginning of my career and it's a very durable lens. I love this lens so much. Now this lens is also really cool. The 85mm is great, but you don't need it, especially if you're shooting smaller houses. If you're shooting smaller houses, this will make it look really cinematic, really special, really beautiful. The 85mm is for houses that have an incredible view because the compression, it pulls the view in. So if there's mountain views or ocean views or lake views, it pulls the view in. It's best for houses that have huge windows. Like this house has incredibly huge windows, but it's not for every single house. So don't think to yourself, hey, the only thing that's gonna take my videos to the next level is an 85mm. This is nice to have, but not necessary. This one, you gotta have it. Now, stabilization is really important. The gimbals that we like to use are the RS4 Pro or the RS3 Pro. They're both incredible gimbals. Here's one thing I will say about these gimbals, is the build quality is not that great. You're not gonna always put it back in a case, and I know that some of you guys are guilty of this. You're gonna, put the gimbal away like this, and you're just gonna put it in the back of your car. Now, it can handle that, but it can't handle that forever. You're going to need to buy a new one eventually. I honestly would buy like a new one like every 6 to 8 months. I know it's $1,000, but when you're making a ton of money with this, it's gonna be worth it. So the first things first is these things are not that durable. They do break down, and I'm just telling you the truth. I'm not gonna, pretend like these are perfect. But when it comes to working with these, I always wanna go with the Pro model. The ones that are not the Pro model, I don't like for a few reasons. The Pro model is nice is because it's made out of like a carbon fiber, which is really handy. And it can handle a bigger payload. And I've used the non-Pro versions and I'm like, I'm getting shots like this, I'm getting shots like where I'm reaching over the countertop, and I find that it crashes out a little bit. But these ones are much more durable in terms of being able to handle a lot during the shoot. So I always like to go with these. And then people always say, Claudio, what settings do you use? Here's the settings that we use. We use, in the back of your gimbal, in the bottom right corner, you're gonna see a speed. And the speed that I use is slow, and sometimes I even go to custom settings and I'll play around with it. And when I'm getting those detail shots, I'll really slow it down. And one thing when it comes to the gimbal is I'm different than most people, but after every single shot, I look into the viewfinder and I see, do I like the shot? I'm very serious. For years, I've done it. And once again, you're probably saying, Claudio, that's not that time productive. Okay, well, I built a 7-figure business. So if it works for me, it can definitely work for you. The viewfinder is really important. And this gimbal right here, you wanna always have it on slow or a custom setting that's not too fast, because there's a fast mode and there's a medium mode. And I can tell you guys already right now, as you guys are getting your detail shots or as you're getting those wide shots where you're getting speed ramp, you're kind of curving in a little bit. If you have it on fast speed or even medium speed, I can guarantee you you're gonna see the jerk, right? You're gonna see like that. So you're always gonna wanna use this gimbal. I really don't recommend anything less than the Pro version. This is so much more useful. You'll notice that this one has a long grip on it. The long grip's nice. It gives you a little bit more stability, a little bit more battery life. When this thing is fully charged up, it lasts forever. But let's go ahead and get to the next piece of equipment. If you are not used to flying drones and you're brand new to this, or you're a real estate photographer and you're used to just taking picture, or if you're new to this, I don't recommend getting a drone that costs you a ton of money. Here's what I'd recommend. In 2025, if you're watching this, I would recommend getting the DJI Mini 4 Pro with a little, pro kit, because the truth is you're gonna crash the drone a ton. When I say a ton, I mean a ton. You're gonna crash the drone like crazy because you're not used to it. I crashed my drone so many times. I remember one time I was doing real estate video. I was with my wife. We were still in our early stages. We hadn't hit 7 figures. We hadn't even hit $10,000. And I remember once I was flying and I need to get a shot and we had to go to another shoot and my wife was driving. And I remember taking the drone off and I needed this shot. Right? I take off. I didn't even look up. There was a tree over there. I'm like, what? We're in Florida. There's only supposed to be palm trees. There was a big tree and I went and it hit the ground. And I didn't get the shot and it really it took the best out of me. I can remember I was so upset. I was so angry. I was so disappointed because at the time I didn't have money like that. I couldn't just buy a new drone, but I needed to get one. So I used what money I had and I bought just the little drone itself, which was like $700. But if you're not used to flying drones, don't go out and get a pro drone. Crash a few on the Mini, and then when it's time to get the Pro, I would recommend either getting the Mavic 3 Pro or getting the Mavic 4 Pro if you're not from America. Right now, if you're watching this at the time of the release, we can't get our hands on it. I flew it in Greece, I flew to Mykonos, but right now it's hard to get your hands on it. So this drone is still really incredible. I'll tell you guys, like that meme, where they look back, that Mavic 4 Pro, that's the meme. It really is. It's that much better. It's unbelievable. But the Mavic 3 Pro is incredible. The Mavic 4 Pro is incredible. They're both great drones, but let's go ahead and talk about the remote. The remote that I would recommend is this black Pro remote. Well, a few reasons. First reason is it looks cooler. And second reason is it goes a lot further. When I say it goes a lot further, it's night and day. If you have a clear opening, let's say you're taking it off from a balcony, you can fly it so far, it's too far, right? You can fly it so far on the black remote, but also if you're shooting more expensive houses, something really important to consider is a lot of those houses are made out of concrete now. They used to be made out of wood or whatever they made it out of. Now these houses are made out of concrete. This house for sure at around $47.5 million is made out of concrete. So I like to fly the drone where I can see it, but let's say I'm on the couch inside, I can see it. When you fly it around a concrete house on those little gray remotes, what's gonna happen, I promise you it'll happen. And you're not gonna listen and it's still gonna happen, is you're gonna be flying it and halfway around your little loop, then you're gonna lose service. Now you can go hide out in front of a tree, but it just makes it so much more handy to have the black remote. So I like the black remote. I like the big drone once you crash the little ones because you won't crash this one as much. You're still gonna crash. You gotta remember that that's part of the game. But the big drone is so much stronger in the wind. But I've flown the Mini, and that Mini thing, it can for sure fly. But let's go ahead and get to the next piece of equipment that you don't want to miss. A lot of people ask, well, what kind of computer should I use? Should I get a MacBook Pro? Should I use a Windows? Should I use a Mac Studio? What do you recommend? Now, I would 10 out of 10 times recommend getting a MacBook Pro. The reason is because sometimes you're gonna travel. Sometimes you're gonna wanna move from room to room. Sometimes you're gonna go to a project. Sometimes you're just gonna wanna have a computer that you can have on the go. And if you're gonna start off with only getting one computer, I would suggest getting a MacBook Pro. If you have the money, I would say max it out. Our entire editing team has maxed out computers. Why? Because speed is, right? Money loves speed, and it's so handy to have it and not just be sitting there looking at the... Okay, so now that we're done buffering, here's one more question I get all the time. What software should I use? Should I use Premiere, DaVinci? Should I use After Effects? Should I use Final Cut Pro? If you want to become the top 1%, I would suggest using Final Cut Pro. We use Final Cut Pro, Eric Visuals uses Final Cut Pro, a ton of other great people use Final Cut Pro. If you want to be the best in the world when it comes to real estate videography, I highly suggest using Final Cut Pro. So now it's time to get to the little things that you don't ever want to forget in your camera bag. And these ones are super, super important. So the first thing is I call it the supercharger. Now this one is just by J5 Create. I'm telling you, this thing charges so fast. You could also use one of those fancy big white boxes that Apple sells. Those are great too, but you need to have a supercharger in your backpack because sometimes you need to charge something. Sometimes you need to charge a battery that you forgot to charge, overnight. So having a supercharger is super, super important because you're gonna be able to make sure that when you're at that shoot, if there's anything that dies, that you can charge it not only fast, but super, super fast. Second thing is you're gonna want to have a microphone. Now the microphone that I personally like to use, even the one that I'm using right now on my body, is the Rode Wireless Pro. Yeah, the Rode Wireless Pro. This one's great. It has a little AirPods case. We also use a DJI. We have so much equipment because keep in mind, we have a ton of shooters at Studio 910. So we use the Rode Wireless Pro, or we'll use the DJI, the little AirPods looking one. Those ones are great as well, but you're always gonna wanna use a lavalier microphone. So right now I'm wearing a lav. The lav is a lot cleaner. I never wanna see on anybody's, I've been guilty of it. Or I've been that guy, but I'm no longer that guy, right? I don't wanna see anybody putting a microphone on the Realtor with a magnet. Not a good look. Now, the other thing you're gonna wanna make sure you have on your shoot is batteries. Have batteries, super handy to have those batteries. I mean, that one's self-explanatory, but you wanna make sure that you can keep on shooting. Because, for example, right now, we just changed a battery once on that camera. And it was just super smooth. We're not like, oh gosh, we have to rush this. Having charged batteries is super important. Now, here's a little bit of a controversial take. This is for your camera. I have these little, these SanDisk SD cards. Now, when I first got into the industry, I was doing all this research and I'm thinking, okay, I need to get myself a CF Express Type A card, 250 gigabytes. And, it was like a $500 card. It was super expensive. And then one day I was in a pinch and I needed to go to Best Buy because I needed an SD card. And I got the Extreme Pro 200 megabytes a second, 128 gigabyte SD card. And you know what? They're like $27, 27 US dollars. They work so well. And I personally don't like to delete it off the hard drive. I don't want to delete it off the SD card. I don't want to delete it off Dropbox until it's been delivered to the client. I literally like to keep the SD card. I have maybe hundreds of these and they're cheap. I'll just buy new ones if I want to. I just keep it. I like to keep the footage. You're probably thinking, Claudio, that is a waste of money to buy, thousands of dollars worth of SD cards. No, it's not. My first shoot, my cheapest thing I sell is $2,000. There's nothing that could, have you ever lost footage? Thank you. You answered my question. And then also having more chargers is nice to have. And then lastly, you're gonna wanna always have, you can't not have this. So serious you cannot have this, is a full frame sensor cleaning swab. Having a cleaning swab is super important. Also, you're gonna need sensor cleaner, also known as sensor juice, but you're gonna wanna have these because if you don't have this, what's gonna happen is you're gonna get to a shoot, you're gonna realize, oh no, something's on my sensor. And then you're gonna freak out and there's nothing that you can do. It's nice to have the blower, but the blower doesn't always work, which is why I always have sensor cleaner. I'm always ordering it, making sure I always have it. These are the things that you're gonna want to shoot the best real estate in the world. Over the past few years, I've literally shot billions of dollars worth of real estate. I've done over 7 figures in last year, and this year we're on track to do multiple 7 figures. If you want to work with the best equipment, this is it. And there's one more thing, and it's being used by my camera right there. I have a Peak Design tripod, not sponsored, Peak Design tripod. It was super expensive, but I do love to use tripod shots. It gets super small, it's super handy, but the Peak Design tripod is also a must for me. And that's really it. That's everything that you need to do to become a world-class videographer in the real estate space. If you have any questions, feel free to text me. My phone number is down below. And if you have any questions, you can also DM me. My Instagram is claudiorivera.910. All right, we'll see you guys on the next video.